This week on Africa Update, only 1,553 women, representing 10.1% of the candidates in Nigeria's 2023 general elections, will be standing for different offices in a few days. Will there be a level playing field for female candidates in the elections? Also on the program, we'll look at how graffiti is boosting profit for commercial transport workers in Kenya. On Roundup Africa, we will also highlight some of the major stories from across the African continent. This is Africa Update on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Ayuba Ile. Thanks for joining. Now, at least 1,553 women, representing 10.1% of the 15,307 candidates in Nigeria's 2023 general elections, will be standing for different offices in a few days. This is a reduction when compared with the 2,968 female candidates that participated in the elections in 2019. According to the report by the United Nations Women's Office, only a female candidate is contending for the position of president, while there is no vice presidential candidate from the 18 political parties taking part in the polls. The report noted that 25 out of the 419 candidates are women, while 92 out of 1,101 candidates for the Senate elections are women, amounting to only 8%. For the House of Representatives, 286 of 3,107 are women, while for the State Houses of Assembly, only 1,046 out of 10,225 candidates are women, amounting to 10% of the total figure. Now, it is important to note that Rwanda has been ranked the country in the world with most women in parliament as of 1st November 2021. And in Africa, the top 5 countries with the highest number of female politicians include Rwanda, South Africa, Namibia, Senegal, and Ethiopia.
Women participation in politics in Nigeria is a subject of discussion at different fora. There are fewer women in elective and appointive positions in government due to largely too many factors. For 2023 election, many women are in the race for different elective positions. However, Hawagambo said women participation in election as contestant has dropped compared to the previous elections.
From data and statistics that we have, participation of women in the forthcoming elections is much more lower than it was in 2019, and that is not a good sign. It means women are lagging behind. I am here to assure you, the moment you begin your journey, God will open up ways for people who support you to find you and support you.
She blames cultural and other societal beliefs as factors responsible for low women participation in politics.
Is the fact that when many people see female politicians from this part of the country, they don't take us seriously. You know, it's really amusing to me. I don't know why they don't take us seriously, but I have come across a lot of people who tell me that they don't take me seriously, or they don't believe I will win election because I'm a woman. And it seems so myopic and closed-minded to me, but that's what some people think. Because it can be a very exhausting and lonely journey. You know, sometimes it's very overwhelming and you feel like you should just quit. But deep inside you, you know that quitting is not an option, but we wish you can take a break.
Safer and secure environment allow women to participate fully in campaigns and other electioneering activities. Gambo blames the present insecurity in the north as an impediment to women's quest for elective offices.
Generally, all over the country, especially here in the northwest, there is heightened insecurity. In the Ward C training, there were female candidates from Zamfara, from Sokoto, from Birnin Kebbi. And you know, these places have more insecurity than Kaduna does. But there are female candidates there and they are all out for these elections. So in their own case, I know they would say that insecurity is one of their biggest challenges.
Gambo believes that women will win various elective offices in the 2023 polls.
How can a level playing field be guaranteed for women in an electoral process as Nigeria goes to the polls? Policy analyst Philip Pandey joins us to share experiences from Kenya. Hello, Philip.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. Thank you. You're welcome to the program. Now, let's start with an overview of female political participation on the African continent. You may give us an example with Kenya. I mean, globally, records are showing that it is quite on the low. So, but on the African continent, how are we doing, by way of starting this conversation?
Very well, Ayub. There has been, first of all, great progress in ensuring women participate and are included in political affairs across the globe, and with respect to Sustainable Development Goals, number 5 to be precise, which basically is on gender equality and empowering women and girls. On the African continent, we've seen quite a rise, and like you rightly put it, about 5 African nations are showing peculiar progress in including women in elective politics, in appointive positions. And we've seen quite a number of reforms, constitutional and legal reforms, legal frameworks, bringing women at par with their counterparts in elections and in opportunity creation. In Kenya, for example, our Constitution 2010 has brought women to a fairer level than they were in the 10th Parliament. For example, the percentage of women in the 10th Parliament was just about 11%, and by the 12th Parliament it had doubled to above 20%. And what we are seeing is consistent increase of women elected, nominated, and appointed to positions of power and decision making. In the 13th Parliament, for example, we have the highest number of elected women in Parliament. That's 30, rising by 7 from 23 previously in the 12th Parliament. Again, for the first time in Kenya, we had 7 out of the 47 governors being women, initially from a number just about 3 previously. So this progress in terms of women participation and nomination in the National Assembly, in Kenya Senate, and particularly with the pace that has been set by Rwanda, we see more that can be done, more opportunity that could be created to ensure that Kenya, just like its counterparts in the East Africa community, the rest of Africa can get at par by what the Rwanda community has shown us. You will remember that since 2009, actually, Rwanda has sustained above 50% of women in other African countries, and so there is good progress.
Except that it's only Rwanda in this instance that is among the top 10 globally. So other African countries, yes, on the African continent we highlighted some 5 of them, but globally speaking, only Rwanda is at the very top there. So what is it exactly that is Rwanda doing differently?
Ayub, you look at the progress that African nations have made, Rwanda being quite unique in terms of, leapfrogging the rest of the nations. But I would dare say that it's only Europe, perhaps, that is ahead of Africa in terms of women representation in all the national assemblies, especially lower houses, to be precise. What's unique about Rwanda? I would say that in the African context, we are largely a patriarchal community, a patriarchal society by all facets. But Rwanda, I think, has learned from the trenches and the sad stories initially that bedeviled them politically, that women are better participants in governing a society, in bringing sanity, in bringing inclusion, in providing for their children, and in rationalizing policy to include every other member of society. So apart from political reforms, there have been legal reforms, there have been inclusion, a clamor for inclusion, especially championed by the President Paul Kagame. It's not just in their parliament, by the way, it's also in their nomination and appointment into cabinet, and inclusion in institutions of importance in Rwanda. You notice that some of the major corporations in Rwanda are women-led, or women are included by good numbers in their boards and decision-making organs. So it takes political reforms, it takes cultural reforms, it takes institutional and overall looking at the global phenomenon and the call to action by the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 5 to be precise, and the peculiar indicators and targets that are laid there within to bring women at par and to include them more in society.
Okay, Philip. All right. Now, to what extent would you say that violence and insecurity, is responsible for where female political participation is on the African continent?
It's true that our politics and politics across the globe is a game of the toughest, if I would say, survival for the fittest. So violence, intolerance, and disruption of order forms part of many campaigns, and especially in rural Africa, in urban and informal Africa as well. Even without talking about violence, but we could also analyze the threshold of women showing up to be elected. You mentioned that in Nigeria, for example, we are just talking about 10% of women running for the vice in August last year, and only 12% of women presented themselves to the elections. So before violence, cultural thing to deal with, and attitudes and behavior to change before women present themselves for elections. So yes, violence has participated and caused probably women to shy away from presenting themselves or showing up for elective politics. But there is an opportunity. I think the ground is fairly level, and as we see it, and as I mentioned, that we have today 7 elected women governors in Kenya. In many countries in Africa, we see women beating all the odds, including violence. So violence, yes, would be an hindrance, but it's not the only thing that counts in an election. The mobilization capacity, the persuasion capacity, the political party formation, the political party leadership.
To what extent have we dealt with some of the social cultural narratives that sometimes could stand as factors limiting female participation in politics in terms of changing narrative societally, really?
There has been a clarion call by institutions that are fighting for gender equality, inclusion of women, empowerment of the girl child, and a lot of gender mainstreaming activities, programs across all communities. Elephant in the room in many communities, and not just Africa, is the participation and practice of FGM, for example. The UN Women reports that in 2020, about 4,400 communities thereabout declared total migration from such practices as FGM. So have relegated women to the periphery, including property ownership, including land rights, including ability to work and fend for themselves, have gradually ensured that women are able to have a capacity to stand on their feet. Another thing that counts Ayub in elections is financial resources, and financial resources are mobilized around property, around work, around productivity. So cultural practices that have traditionally barred women from power to mobilize, power to have strong campaigns against their competitors who predominantly are men. But I dare say that this situation is improving, and if we have more campaigns to do with gender mainstreaming, to take out cultural practices that hinder women's ascension to power and to the apex, then we will be able to deal with the situation of culture as a factor of elections.
Okay, so final one now. How can we ensure a level playing field for female or for women in politics, ahead of elections generally?
The point of reference is the Sustainable Development Goals. We have 17 of them, and in each of those goals, gender is mainstreamed. In those goals, we have indicators, and we have gender-specific indicators. Some of the things that we're talking about, especially that we are mainstreaming, include reduction of violence against women and girls, economic empowerment, increasing the threshold of for the number of women at appointive and elective positions, increasing the number of women at places of work and in employment, and including women in decision-making organs. We are short of just under 10 years to the conclusion of the SDG regime. And what we see are sustained efforts and results that we could point out. But UN Women still estimates in regards to fulfilling those goals that we perhaps need about 286 years. 286 years.
That's a generation. That's 2 centuries we are talking about there.
Yeah. So particularly to achieve reforms, legal frameworks, and enforce gender parity in public spaces especially. So I would say it's work in progress. The gains have been tremendous. We see countries like Rwanda which have achieved about 60%, and that's a good indicator that we are doing quite some good work. If you look at the overall threshold globally, by 1995, when we had the Beijing meeting put together by the Interparliamentarian Union, there was just less than 10%, about 11% of women in all parliaments across the globe.
Okay.
But fast forward in 25 years, we have at least a quarter of all parliaments being women. So it means that the 25% that we have achieved over the last 25 years would be doubled in the next half a century or so. So I think the 286 years is ideal for other reforms and other inclusivity parameters, but in terms of parliamentary positions and decision-making roles, then we might achieve that just in short, under 50 years, and by 2050.
Another critical area, just in 1 minute, another critical area has to do with girl-child education, which of course has a direct correlation between female participation and all that. So how much more do we need to do, just quickly?
If you look at our indicators on education, there are about 12 of them, if I'm not wrong, but 8 are gender specific. Today we are talking about women, 54% of women in school being in crisis-stricken regions. So what I would and call for, especially on the UN and agencies that are enforcing this, is that let us return calm. Let us ensure that peace and stability is achieved in all jurisdictions, in all borders, so that education is provided for regardless of gender, and women are coming up strongly in education, especially. In Kenya, the competition is almost 50-50.
All right, thank you so much, Philip Pandey, policy analyst. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update and sharing your perspectives on this matter.
Very well, Ayub. It's always a pleasure joining you. And once again, thank you for having me. It was a great opportunity talking to you, especially on matters that form part of the global agenda and our African progress.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, this is Africa Update, reaching you from Trust TV in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at how graffiti is boosting profits for commercial transport workers in Kenya. Join us again. Welcome back. Now, Michael Macharia, a Kenyan graffiti artist, said he is using his talent to make a living by spray painting public buses and vans that are popularly known in the East African nation as matatus. Macharia says his clientele has expanded and has been paid up to $1,000 for his artwork by bus owners who allege that his skill has helped them attract more clients. For more on this, we have VOA's Huba Abdi, who reports from Kenya's capital, Nairobi.
Michael Macharia grew up in a low-income part of northern Nairobi. When he was young, he started making graffiti on public surfaces like walls and bridges. Now, he paints the public transport vehicles called matatus and employs more than 10 young graffiti artists.
Ilikuwa ngumu kwanza, mara ya kwanza kabla watu express.
It was hard at the beginning before people accepted it. It was seen as an evil thing because people were painting awkward things. It took time before it was accepted because of the system and technology and because people have different tastes. But eventually it became a business like any other business.
Matatu owners sometimes pay up to $1,000 for his artwork. He says the more colorful the matatus, the more customers.
What we paint is what is happening in our daily lives. There are movies, games, music. It depends on someone's taste. Some clients want you to draw their picture. Others don't have a design, so you give them a design. You have to be flexible.
In 2021, the Grammy-winning rapper Cardi B caught a glimpse on Twitter of a Kenyan matatu bearing her portrait. Cardi B gave it a shout-out, tweeting, "America is boring. They need buses like this." These days, the market has expanded. Now, motorcycle taxis in Nairobi, known as boda bodas, have adopted the culture. Joseph Mukoya is a graffiti artist who paints boda bodas.
Pale stage, unapata, you can find like 10 to 20 bikes.
When you go to the bike parking place, you can find 10 to 20 bikes with only red, black, and blue. Those are the main colors, only those three colors. We started thinking how we can make them unique.
How tunaweza make unique.
Boda Boda operator Caleb, who didn't give his last name, says painting his vehicles helps him attract more customers.
When customers come, they can choose me instead of the other one because they love how attractive my bike is. It looks beautiful.
Last year, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja said that he will soon introduce awards for the best matatus and that the judging process will consider the quality of their art.
Time now for us to take a look at Roundup Africa, a highlight of some of the major stories from across the continent with Chiamaka Umafo.
Botswana's president, Mokgweetsi Masisi, is threatening to walk away from a diamond mining deal with industry giant De Beers unless the firm offers better terms. Under the current deal, which expires in June, Botswana, Africa's largest diamond producer, is entitled to purchase up to 25% of the stones mined in a joint venture. Addressing Relief Party supporters in his home village of Mushupa, just outside Gaborone, President Mokgweetsi Masisi said his country is well positioned to push for a better deal with De Beers. Botswana currently earns about $4.5 billion per year in sales, taxes and royalties from its contract with De Beers, the leader of Botswana's main opposition party. A 10-year sales agreement between Botswana and De Beers expired in 2021 but was extended to June 2023 pending negotiations. At least 73 migrants were reported missing and presumed dead following a shipwreck off the Libyan coast on Tuesday. The official Twitter account of International Organization of Migration in Libya said on Wednesday. According to IOM, 7 survivors made it to the shore from the boat, which was carrying around 80 people who had reportedly departed from Qasr al-Khair, east of Tripoli, to head to Europe. It further said so far 11 bodies have been retrieved by the Libyan Red Crescent and the local police, while the 7 survivors are in hospital. Libya has become a major launching point for migrants seeking to reach Europe via a dangerous route across the desert and over the Mediterranean. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned of the threat posed by rising sea levels to hundreds of millions of people living in low-lying coastal areas and small island states as new data reveals seas have risen rapidly since the 1900s. In an address to the first UN Security Council debate on the implications of rising sea levels for international peace and security, Guterres said countries such as Bangladesh, China, India and the Netherlands were threatened, as were big cities such as Lagos, Jakarta, London, Los Angeles, Buenos Aires, Mumbai, Maputo, New York and Shanghai. Climate change is heating the planet and melting glaciers and ice sheets, which according to NASA has resulted in Antarctica shedding some 150 billion tons of ice mass each year on average. Guterres said Greenland's ice cap is shrinking even faster and losing 270 billion tons per year. And that's it on Roundup Africa.
And that's a wrap on Africa Update for this week. Join us next week for another time on the program. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.